Hi, this is Jonathan. In this video, I'm going to feature something from Line 6. This is the Line 6 PODGO. So you might know that I've been using the Line 6 stuff for the longest time. For most of the videos that I've done in the past, all these have been recorded with the Helix Native plugin in conjunction with my DAW. I also have the Helix floorboard, which I use for my live shows as well as doing sessions when I'm doing sessions in another studio. But when I'm doing a session here in the studio, I will use the Helix Native. So the Helix Native and the Helix floorboard are about the same. The Native have more DSP power depending on your computer, you know, how much RAM you have and how fast is your computer. So in terms of DSP power, the Helix Native can do a whole lot more than the Helix floorboard. But the Helix floorboard is no slouch because it contains enough DSP to do a whole lot of stuff that your mind can imagine to do, you know. And then came the shortly after that came the HS Stomp, you know, and those are pretty nice, you know, nice nifty units, you know, with 3 buttons and enough DSP to do sound, or rather almost most of the stuff that you can do on the Helix Native. But it didn't appeal to me because you just have 3 buttons and there's only so much you can do, and there's no expression pedal, nothing like that. And then came the PODGO. Now, surprisingly, the PODGO has only 25% of the DSP power of a Helix floorboard, you know, so it has a whole lot less DSP power, but yet, you know, it features a expression pedal, which also act as a double as a wah, and enough buttons for you to use this like a pedal board, you know. And I'm gonna explain what you can do with this, but small enough to carry on a gig, you know, small enough to carry on the tour if you need to. The only thing is that this is like a toned down version of the Helix floorboard. So take a look. So this is how the PODGO looks with its switches and visual display, you know, and the many functions that you see here. Basically, it's very simple. We have the bank up and bank down switch on your left, and you have the A, B, C, D for your patches in each bank. Of course, you have the mode here, which is going to be very important, as I explained later. And then you have the switch where you can do, where you can activate your tuner. If you just hold it down, the tuner comes in, and you can also tap tempo. Right, decide what tempo you have just by tapping. Now, the mode switch. This is where you're going to interact a lot with this switch, because you have basically two way to use all your foot switches here. Right now it's in bank up and bank down switch, where you can actually change your patches, as you can see. I have clean on A and B on semi clean, C on distortion, and then D as in a full-blown solo. Right, so when I change the whole thing by just depressing the mode switch, I'm now in the pedal board mode, where I can actually turn on and turn off different effects. For example, A is my delay. I could just switch it off if I want to, and of course this is a reverb. Right, so basically this is the bank up patches mode, right? And this is again the pedal board mode, where you can activate individual effects. So you have up to 6, right? And there are many things you can do with these switches, because Line 6 gives you the option of changing certain parameters. Say for example a reverb, you can change different parameters, but the catch is that you have to have reverb turn on all the time, and then within that you can actually change certain parameters within the reverb just by holding on that reverb switch, you know, and it changes. For example, you have the reverb on all the time, and you may have it in a minimal volume, you know, minimal volume of the reverb, and then when you depress the switch, it turns on like certain, maybe you get more volume, or you have more decay time, you have more pre-delays and stuff. You can actually change a whole lot of stuff just by depressing one switch, and that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool, because you can even do that for the delay. So basically you have this view where you can actually see all your various effects. Like I said again, certain effects are changeable, interchangeable, certain effects are not. Like for example, the EQ will always be EQ, the amps will always be amp, the caps will always be caps. But there's certain things you can change, for example, with delay, the time-based units, and the distortion, you know, all those boosts, you know, and stuff like that. So I'm going to explain to you later on, and then you have different pages where you can, scroll through what other parameters you have within that effect mode. You have action, where you can actually move around your effects, as you can see. All right. You have save, which is basically just depressing this 2, and then you have save. You know, you are able to save into whatever patches, in whatever bank. You know, if you cancel, just press cancel. Right. Depressing this 2 switch will bring you to the global control, where you can have all your global settings, your global EQ, your bypass control and stuff like that. All those that will be explained to you in the instruction manual. So if you're gonna get this unit, please read the instruction manual. Right? And here you have the volume pedal as well as a wah. So that's a toe switch. So when you activate the wah, this will turn on to wah. It's pretty cool. Right, so now the volume switch is at expression 2. So if I were to toe it, you would go to expression 1. So this is the wah right now. very straightforward. So as you can see, we have on the left hand side we have all the banks and all the presets. So we have the first bank, and you have 4 presets each bank. So mine is on the 5th, and I have 4 presets here, 06 A, B, C, and D. So the first one will be the John Clean, second is John Semi, and then you have John Distortion. This is actually a solo, so if I were to rename this, all I need to do is to save, and then I could rename it to John Solo. There you go. So this is John Solo and Clean. So I'm going to show you just roughly how you build up a patch. So what you have on the first one is the expression pedal. And from here, you can actually see what sort of expression pedal you want. Like you can have control over your gain, pan, stereo width. So it doesn't have to be just a volume pedal. It can actually have all this, you know. But mind you, once you have that, that's all it's going to do. So if it's going to be on stereo width, if the expression pedal is used for stereo width, that's all it's going to be used. That's for expression pedal 2, right? So this is expression pedal 1, or rather either one, or expression pedal 1 or 2, but this is just dedicated a wah pedal. So you have all these different wahs when you activate the expression pedal with the toe switch, right? So you just have to depress your toe or knob, and then you will change expression. Like in my case, when it's on volume, it's on expression 2, but when I toe it, it's on expression 1, which is the wah, right? Which is this. And then you have the next one. So this is the compressor. Now you can actually switch this to a distortion, to whatever you want, like a delay. This is interchangeable. So this effect slot is interchangeable. And this one is a loop, effects loop, where you can actually hook up to whatever effects you have, an external effect, like for example, in another delay, another reverb unit. Then you have the amps, and from here, you can actually see what sort of amps you have. And then you can actually choose between preamps and amps. So it's pretty cool. I've decided to choose a twin vibrato, and I'm using the stock cap. All right, so this is a 212. I could actually use all the other caps if I want to. And from here, you can actually adjust what your microphone is going to be like. I'm using a 121 ribbon, and your distance from the speaker and all that good stuff, right? Now back to the amp again. You have the normal ones like the drive, bass, mid, treble, and more, right? You have like how the Helix Edit look like. You have all the options to kind of tweak, to your satisfied. Well, if you're just like a nerd like me, right? And this all can be accessed on the front panel of the unit itself. Now here you have the EQ, right? Now this is something that you cannot. This slot, this EQ slot, you can't interchange it with any other effects. So it just stays an EQ block. So you can have this EQ block, you can decide to place it on the front, before the amp, or after the amp and the cap, or in between the amp and the cap. You can do all that. All these are all interchangeable. All these effect slots are all interchangeable. Now you have the next one. I have a plastic chorus, which I can actually interchange with any other effects. I could use a delay for this if I want to. In this case, I'm using a chorus, and then I have a tremolo, and this is also interchangeable. All right, and then the reverb, which is also interchangeable. So basically, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 interchangeable slots for effects. So the EQ slot is non-interchangeable. The toe switch for expression pedal for the wah is not interchangeable, and then you have your expression pedal itself, non-interchangeable. The good thing is that on the input stage, you can actually have your gate, so you don't have to have an additional effect for the gate. So you can actually have your input gate and all the threshold, and you can decide whether your input is a guitar or a USB, So it's pretty cool. So you just save a one slot. and then you have all the rest. So basically you have all this. So for this clean sound, I just have the deluxe. And from there, I can have all my effects on, like, you know, I could have, this is the chorus. Then I have the tremolo. And I could turn on the reverb. I could switch the tremolo, you know, position and put it before the chorus. So if I turn on both, now for this reverb, as I was saying in the first clip of the demo, I've said that you can actually have this change to different parameters when you depress the foot switch, right? So I have the reverb virtually on all the time. So, but when I depress the reverb foot switch, which I can assign, so you can see the reverb effect drastically change. So I turn it off again, and it's back to the normal reverb. Now notice this little notch here. Now, this is the minimum setting. So this is where no foot switch has been depressed. This is how the reverb sounds like. You can hear a tin of it, not too much. But when I depress it, when I depress the foot switch, it goes to the maximum level, as you can see on this little notch here. So the top, and this is a minimum, this is the maximum. So in order to do this, what you need to do if, okay, I'm going to have this foot switch deactivated. So I'm on foot switch 6. Now I'm going to clear this, right? So I can show you. Yes. So I just cleared this. So what I need to do is to set the minimal amount. You know, so I'm going to change my reverb now to back to the glitz. So this is the default setting. Okay, this is the default setting. So it sounds, it's a bit much. So I'm going to bring down the level of the mix, right, to maybe about 12 or 15, what, 14. Okay, just a touch, right? So you can hear the reverb. Now, this is virtually on all the time. So my foot switch is not lighted up at all, right? And once I change parameters, if for example, this mix, right? So I had it just now at 13, 14, right? Now I just have to assign to foot switch 6, and there you go. You have the minimum setting, right? So I could change it to what, 14, 13, and then the maximum setting, I'm gonna change it like to 30. Look at the bottom here, right? Look here, okay. So I'm gonna change it to like 30, yeah, 3. And you can see this notch happening, and this notch is gonna be at 30. So if I depress the foot switch, it would jump to there. And if I depress it, it would jump back to the minimal setting. So this is how you use, and you can do it. You can do multiple effects. Like for example, you can have multiple parameters being adjusted that way. Like for example, my pre-delay right here. Now I could have assigned to foot switch 6 again, foot switch 6 again, and you can adjust the minimum pre-delay and your maximum pre-delay. So now you have 2 parameters being adjusted by the touch of a foot switch. So this is how you do it. And then you save it, right? And there you go. So you have, this is a minimum, and at the activation of the foot switch, you have the maximum effect. So this is good if you have effects that is virtually on, all the time. Like for example, reverb, or certain sound. Like for example, my clean sound, I always have some reverb on. So I could set it real, the mix, I could set it real low, so that you can actually hear it, just a touch only, right? So I could just play rhythm parts without it getting all muddy up by the reverb. But you can still hear it, and then. So that's the cool thing, right? Now, on my John semi-dirty patch, I'm using the normal thing, but I have a deluxe compressor on, and then I have a hair apparent distortion, which is really cool. Then I have a deluxe amp with a impulse response that I port over from my Helix Native. I prefer this cabinet sound than the stock, so that's how I'm using it right now. And then I have a EQ which I didn't use at all, and a vintage delay. And a reverb. This reverb has the same setting as my clean sound, so I can actually have it set to the maximum setting. If I want a psychedelic solo happening. If not, I'll just turn it off and it's just there. Now for the hair apparent distortion, you have a option of having it overdrive. As you peak, you have an overdrive effect or a boost effect or a distortion. I prefer the boost effect because it kind of like bring out certain harmonics that you cannot find in the overdrive and distortion setting. I'm going to set it to overdrive, you can hear the difference. This is distortion. It's all very subtle, but when you go back to the boost, everything started to come alive. So this is the setting that I choose. So just in case you're having this unit and you're wondering about this setting in your hair apparent. Now this is available in the Helix as well as in the Helix Native, so you guys can just fool around with it if you have any of these units. So this is just a rough look at how the editor looks like. Now I like the editor because it gives you the option to actually see the the amps that you're going to be using, and there's a whole lot of amps, a whole lot of effects, right? So many effects that you can do, and there is a looper function if you choose, but I'm not going to go to that because it's going to be real long. So take a look at the other Line 6 PODGO videos and you can probably learn a thing or two. So from this size, you can see that portability is the aim here right now. Compared to a full-blown Helix, the full-blown Helix weighs a whole lot more than this. And it's big, and if you're going on tour with this, I always have a problem when I'm going on tour with a Helix floorboard because I have to decide whether should I put it in my luggage. Then I can just not carry another piece of luggage. But then again, the Helix is so big. The Helix floorboard is so big that I probably have to pack a whole lot less than I usually do. But when you're going on an extended tour, like for example, 10 days or a week and a half, that would be a problem. So in this case, I had to bring a flight case for the floorboard. And the flight case, most flight case costs or rather weighs as much as the unit itself. So there you go again. This, on the other hand, I can actually put this in the luggage if I need to. There are many ways you can pack, but that's a topic for another day. Or rather, I have a video about this in a couple of videos back, of what I pack when I go on tour. But with this unit itself, I think it has given me more choices as to where should I pack my floorboard. But apart from that, this unit features only 25% of the total DSP that the Helix floorboard has. It's a stripped down version, meaning you can do bi-amping, you know. You can do a whole lot of stuff. You can use 2 amps, you can use 2 sets of effects, you know. There's only this little effects that you can use, although it's swappable, like I showed in the demo. But you have only about, what, 4 blocks for you to, 4 blocks that you are able to interchange whatever effects you want. The rest are just all stagnant. And then again, it's not really stagnant because you can actually choose the other effects in that vicinity, in that genre. Apart from that, you know, the expression pedal works just like a Helix floorboard. You don't get XLR out. That's the only thing. The Helix floorboard, whether it's the Helix full blown or the Helix LT, does feature stereo XLR out. So that would discount the use of a direct box, you know, in venues. And when I'm playing shows, I don't normally use the direct boxes for the Helix because it's just plugged straight in through the XLR out. It's a pity though, you know. I wish this has an XLR out. All it has at the back is just real simple, you know, real basic. You have guitar in, expression pedal 2. If you're going to hook up a direct expression pedal for your wah or for a volume pedal or whatever, the additional expression pedal, then you have the effects loop where you can hook up to whatever effects you have, you know, the Strymons, reverb or delays and whatever you have. And then you have the main out. Now this is just a 1/4 inch out. Then you have an amp out. This is a mono out. So you can use this as like using an amp, use this as a pedal board. And then you have the phones, which is the headphones, USB for your updating and your connection to the PODGO editor, which is really, really useful. And then the power in. So it's really basic, you know, this PODGO, and I think it suits players to a T when they need something basic and not too advanced, you know. I like the Helix floor because it gives me a whole lot of options to play around with, and whatever I have in my mind, the stereo setup, I can do it all. But if I were to go for a simpler mindset, then I would go for this instead of the HS Storm. That's me. The HS Storm has a selling point because it's small, it's really compact, but it loses out in terms of playability when you're in a live situation, and I don't want to carry too much. I have the expression pedal built in. You know, I have enough buttons to step on to configure what I want to do. And it gives me 2 modes. It gives me a bang up and down mode where I can switch presets. That's a thunder, right? Or if I switch the mode, it can turn up into a pedal board configuration where I can turn on and off individual effects. And that is a thing that I was looking for a unit, you know, like this, because the Helix can do all that, but the Storm cannot. So yeah. So considering the fact that this costs a whole lot less than the Helix floorboard, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this for like simpler gigs, or maybe even to replace the Helix floorboard, because, you know, I'm getting old. You know, age is catching up, and the lesser thing I carry, the better it is for my back and for my hands. So I'll probably get this and probably replace the RK5 or the Fly Rig for smaller gigs. I mean, I'm doing like worship sessions in church, or, you know, local gigs where I do have to luck, you know, my Helix floorboard. But for the major shows, you know, for major shows, I will probably still use the Helix floorboard. It has its own use, and I have to make the extra effort to carry that floorboard because I wanted it to sound the way I want it to sound. And it's not a question of whether is this gig more important to warrant a Helix floorboard, or whether this gig is not important, so I'll just bring the PODGO. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about whether just the sound that I can get, you know, whether the sound that I can derive from the Helix floorboard justify the carrying of it, because it does weigh a lot, right? And decision is up to you. But if you're looking for a stripped down floorboard, or you don't want to pay that much money for a Helix floorboard or a Helix LT, Helix LT is not a good choice. I think Helix LT stands a little less than a Helix floorboard. It doesn't have the strip, so that's another option for you. If you don't want to get a floorboard, you can get a Helix LT, and it weighs a little bit less than the Helix floorboard. And then after that, you can consider this, right? So in terms of weight and capability, okay, in terms of weight, the Helix floorboard, Helix LT, and then this, and then the HS Storm. But in terms of capability, you have the floorboard, which is the same as the LT because they are both identical, except for the LT has less ports at the back and no strips, right? And then you have the Helix floorboard, LT, and then the Storm. And then this is the last one because this has about 25%, like I said, DSP power, and the Storm has probably about half, or maybe, I don't know, 3/4 or half of DSP power of the Helix floorboard. So choices is yours to make, and depending on your budget, you can decide which one you get, right? So I do not know the price yet, so I will probably put out the price in the info section down below. The unit is, I guess it's gonna be available soon if it's not available now in Singapore. But for you guys in the States, it's probably available in Sweetwater or Musician's Friend or wherever you can find it, right? So I hope you get something out of this. What's my take? I think I'm gonna get this because it suits my purpose. I think it's good for guys who are just starting out and wanting the best of the best amp and cap simulation that you can find. There are many brands out there. The Facto, you have, the AX8, and all that. You have the Yamaha stuff. You have the Boss stuff, But well, like I said, I'm a Line 6 fanboy, so I've been using Line 6 all this time, and I'm pretty impressed and satisfied with what all this amp simulation and caps has to offer, and it's always updating. Line 6 support system is one of the best that I can think of. They have great guys there, and they are always updating the software. They're always updating the firmware, so it's a great company to be with, right? If you need more information about this unit, feel free to go to the various PODGO YouTube videos out there, because I believe 96 came out with a couple of these, and I believe Yamaha Singapore is going to come out with a couple of videos about this product too. So check them out. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and join this channel. Right? See you next video. I'll see you. Ciao.